Please welcome Micki and Matt Hoesley.
Thanks. I know. Perfect.
All right, is this thing on?
Yeah.
Good? Okay. I moved from Wisconsin to Virginia in January of 2006. So this will be 12 years in January that I've been working with Micki. That first year, I almost made $16,000 US.
I didn't spoil them.
So we're going to talk about how we work together and how that's helped both of us. I think the results are going to be a little more quantifiable for me because obviously I've improved from there. But I think it's been beneficial for Micki as well.
It has, and when we talk to you today, we're really trying to talk to you. So whether you're like me or where I was 10 years ago, where I didn't really have a plan for the succession of my practice, it was me and my assistant who'd been with me for 34 years. If that's where you are, within 20 years of retirement, I hope that our experience and how wonderful it's turned out will be where you are. If you're newer in the business, like where maybe Matt was 10 years ago, and you're looking around the room and you're saying, boy, I wish I got in a practice like hers, and could grow that way. Look around the room and see who you respect. Because I will say, I think it's really fortuitous that Monday here is Thanksgiving. Because I've got to tell you, I could not be more thankful than for having had Matt join my practice. And he's made it so much more fun, so much more profitable, and has done a lot. Our clients, we'll talk more about it, but how our clients now feel that their legacy will continue to their next generation. So there's a lot of reasons, but even if you're just a person working on your own and you just want to do a little joint work, what we tried to put in our presentation today was all the things we actually do in our practice. So just the little tips, some of the tools and things, and I hope that after we finish, everybody, no matter where you are in your practice, finds some really good stuff out of it.
We found that it has strengthened our relationships with our clients a ton. We each mesh better with certain clients. So I know that if I have more in common with that person or just our personalities are better together, then I'll take the lead. And vice versa with Micki. If somebody works better with her, then she'll take the lead. But that doesn't mean that we step out. It means that one person takes the lead, but we still have more contact with them together. We still work very closely with them. If one of us goes on vacation, we don't have to feel bad because we know the other one is there to help us out and is up to speed and can step in with any client that we have.
I would tell you though that there's an adjustment with this for me. So the first time we went out to a corporate client of mine who has mostly women employees, and we were going to do a presentation, and Matt had been doing them too, and after a couple of these, I went over there and they said, "What are you doing here? We've got Matt, we don't need you." And I'm like, whoa! But all these women love Matt.
And it switches, I think, too, because so there was a guy that I would always go target shooting with. We'd go to the pistol range, and he was a human resources director that brought us into multiple corporate retirement plans. At one of our outings, he asked if we would manage over $1 million of his personal assets as well. And I don't think we ever would have gotten to that point without that shared hobby and personal interest. But at our most recent outing, Micki came with us too, and I think she shot better than me, so. First
time I held the gun, and it was great. He instructed me, and I gotta say, it was pretty much fun.
Now I think she's taking the lead back on that one.
What we find with our clients is that there's certain things that we believe that they want from us. I think that they want customization, they want personalization, they want us to be responsive to them, and we're going to talk about each of these in more detail. They also want to know that we know what we're talking about. And the most important thing, which I think each one of the speakers today has talked about, is trust. They want to be able to trust us. So when we I'll just go on the other side.
Yes, sorry, we were-
No,
This
he's
is fun,
better at that. We'll talk about that too. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so let's talk first about responsiveness. So how do we stay responsive to our clients? Well, the first thing is we actually share calendars. So let me tell you how our practice is set up. So it's Matt and I, and we have two assistants, two full-time assistants. Martha, who's been with me 35 years, and Carol, who's been with us 1 year. Everyone has access to both of our calendars. Everyone can add things to our calendars and take things off our calendars. So everyone knows what's going on and who's where. This will probably be a little bit more of a surprise to you. Both staff people have full access to both of our emails. They read every email that comes in that appears to be business related. But what that does is it allows them to triage, essentially, each client contact. So if a client sends an email and wants something, if it's administrative only, they between them decide who handles it, they take care of it, they copy us on it, and it's done. We didn't even have to read the email. If it has to do with something more advisory, then they know who's there, who normally is the lead on the case, who probably has the answer, and who's available to give that answer. So they can get the stuff we need, email us the stuff we need so that we can then respond from wherever we are. So that sharing has allowed us to be so incredibly responsive. The bad part, now clients expect it. It's like crazy, like we're really, really good. So if it actually takes us a half a day to get back to them, they go, oh my gosh, you're usually back to me within an hour. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've created a monster. But I think the responsiveness is helpful. The second thing is customization. Think about how you feel. I feel like when I go to someone, I don't want them to hand me a template that they use for every single client. I want to know that they've listened to what my problems are or what I want to have, and they've created something for me. Maybe something that's partially pre-created, but still something that is for me. So when we do customization, we start by making sure that we know everything about that person. We never jump into product. Here's an example of just one page of a financial plan. We use financial profiles. Now, there's nothing that exciting about financial profiles, sorry about if they're a vendor here, but except their visuals. And I will tell you the number one thing that our clients will say that they like about us is how we explain things and the visuals we use. So what we do is we just focus on really two charts in that whole financial plan. And we sit people down in our office, we have a big screen TV, and we bring up their life on the big screen. And then we talk to them about what if. What if this happens? And it all changes, and they go, oh, wow, the red, that's not good, right? The red's not good. We go, no. So how can I get rid of the red? I said, well, how about can you save this? Okay, that got rid of part of it. How can we do it? We get them very engaged in this plan. We create their plan together. And we tell them, this plan is not locked in stone. We will, once we come to a conclusion of where we think this is good on the assumption, we'll email you a copy of it. We'll keep it in our files, but it's constantly moving. And every time you come, we will update this, we will move it around, we'll see what we need to change, and it will morph, and it will change as you change. We actually have one client who, he's a salesman. I tell you, he's a salesman. So what he does is, because he doesn't really quite have enough, assets, so he comes in, he says, can I come in and play the game? And then he comes in and he goes, okay, What if we inherit $200,000? I'm like, okay, you don't really count that, but he plays it. But it's so interesting that the clients actually see this as a tool that they can use as well, and that they can feel comfortable calling us and saying, hey, can I come in and can we use this and do this a little bit different?
Well, as Micki said, all they really want is for the red to disappear. And they will do anything they can in their power to make that happen. And that's, again, educating them to the point of they're the ones that are ready to buy and ready for the sale. The other thing we do is with clients is we tell them that we can give you this 80 pages of data in a nice, pretty portfolio printed thing, but we save it as a PDF and we email them. And we say, the charts that we reviewed with you are on pages 32 and 38. And this is all just data. This is not their financial plan. Their financial plan is the bullet points in our executive summary of here's what you need to do and when. Because if you don't have that, they're not going to take action on any of it.
One of the things we found too is that this works really well with people up about until maybe 2 years before retirement. When they're about 2 years before not having a check come in anymore, this is not detailed enough. Even with all the data behind it, it's still not detailed enough. It still feels to them like a black box. So what we've done, and it's not pretty, we do it on an Excel spreadsheet, but what we do is we do year to year to year to year, every year up till where they turn 90. And we put every one of their assets in. We put an assumption in on each asset about what kind of rate of return it will have. And we always use really conservative rates. And we carry it out, and we show pulling out the amount of money they say they're going to need, and we pull it out of certain assets. And when we sit down and talk to them about it, we say, now I can guarantee you it's never going to look exactly like this. And I can't tell you for sure which of the assets we'll pull it from, but this is what it could look like if we pulled it from these different assets. But it also allows us to reinforce with them, we're not going to pull anything from your annuity contract until you've had it 10 years, because that maxes out the deal. So we're going to pull it from other places, and then we'll start pulling it from the annuities. And they'll see it all the way out till they're 90 years old. They love this, because they can finally visualize where's the money going to come from, because they don't really know like where that check's sitting in their checking account is going to come from. One of the things that we found is years later, I don't know when we started doing this, 10 years ago, 8 years ago?
They'll bring that spreadsheet back 5, 8, 10 years later and say, okay, let's reconcile this, where do we stand?
Right, they check it, and they check where we said we were going to be versus, and luckily, everybody's way ahead of where we said. And one of the reasons is because of our conservative assumptions. Another reason is we're brilliant, no. But it really, they feel good because they're way ahead of the day. The other thing with customization is, pegging on what Marv said, is do things unique, especially for them. And this is one that'll sound crazy, but I can't tell you how much people like it. We will, all 4 of us, get together and call clients on their birthday on speakerphone and sing them happy birthday.
It would never work if it was just me.
Well, until we hired Carol, we didn't really, they said, keep your day job. But it's so amazing. They just love it. They're so excited. They tell people, oh, you can't believe it. My financial advisors called me and all sang happy birthday to me. I mean, we've done cakes, we've done balloons. Nothing gets the hit like us singing happy birthday. So again, just make yourself unique and memorable. The third area that I said, talked about is personal attention. And we want to personalize everything that we do with clients. Now, I told you you saw and you can see, I've been in the business a while. So I know my clients really well. Martha has been with me for almost my entire career. I mean, it was the 2 of us for almost forever. She knows all my clients' voices, She knows their families, she knows their history, she knows a product that they had 25 years ago that they lapsed, she knows everything. Matt now has been there 12 years, so he has a great depth of knowledge as well about our clients. When we hired Carol, you know, she's brand new, she doesn't know our clients, and you can hear, you know, the conversations with her felt more formal and not as friendly. And so we said, how can we solve this? How can we speed her up more quickly so that she knows who our clients are? So we started this get to know a client a day thing, where we would pick one of our clients and we just talk to her about that client, you know, for that whole next day. We'd say, okay, well, you know, this is what he used to do and this is how this has changed, and oh my goodness, you should see his wife, and did you know his kids played baseball or whatever, and we just try to immerse her in client data, or that's not really data, but information. And it kind of worked, but what we found has actually worked a little better is having her have more interaction directly with the clients. More phone conversations with the clients, more when they come in, having time with them to talk to them. And now she's getting, and it's been a year though, but now she's getting much more familiar with them. And so I can hear her when someone calls, she goes, oh, Harvey, yeah, what's going on with your kids, you know? And so that's the kind of response we want with our personalization.
One of the things that's been kind of a common theme with all the speakers is you need to show your clients that you know what you're doing, and you need to simplify it in a way that they understand. We've got a lot of credentials behind our name, and I think that's important, but I can probably count on one hand how many clients have actually asked if I had my CFP. But for me, it helped just coming straight out of college, know that I had the qualifications needed to work with some pretty high-level clients. One thing we've done is we have, depending on which clients we are or prospects we're meeting with, we have different bios tailored towards that. So we have a bio tailored towards our expertise in corporate retirement plans, and we have our bio tailored towards our life insurance expertise and our money management expertise. But we also include kind of a cheat sheet of what all of our certifications mean, because that's a really good way for them to kind of look at it whenever they want to and say, oh, okay, I guess, you know, that's what these designations mean, and these guys really did put some time into it and know what they're talking about. The other thing on this slide, and this is funny, this took, I don't know why it took us so long to figure this out, but this is a folder with our name and logo and all that stuff on it. And it was only a couple years ago. We were sitting there handing out life insurance policies in whatever folder the carrier gave to us, whether it was Manulife, John Hancock, or Protective, or anybody. And we're saying, you know what, this is dumb. We can get nice folders with our logos, our contact information on it. So we're the first thing the client sees, not the insurance company or whoever, or whatever the policy came in. Again, it's an inexpensive way to stay in front of your clients, and it looks good.
The last thing that we had mentioned was trust, and it's good that we've been talking a lot about trust today. That's one of those things that you just can't say, okay, well, here's the key and you do this and they're gonna trust you. We all know that. You take a lifetime to build up that trust, and you can do just one little thing and you can lose that trust in a moment. But one of the things that we learned in building up trust is that if they understand some of the additional things we're doing behind the scenes, then they'll trust more that because we're looking after them. We stay awake nights worrying about them, and we need to communicate that information to them. So let me give you a couple of examples. I don't know how many of you remember on that Friday morning when Bill Gross, who is the head of PIMCO, resigned and walked out. But at the time, Bill Gross was they called him the bond king. He was the largest bond money manager in the world, and he had the largest bond fund in the world. And his flagship bond fund that he managed, PIMCO Total Return, was like everywhere. And we had it with a lot of clients, and we had it in a lot of retirement plans. And so when we heard that morning that he walked out the door, we pulled up every single client that had PIMCO, every single retirement plan, and we called every single one, told them, this is what happened. You may hear it on the news, you may not. This is what we're going to do about it. We're going to contact your provider. So on our retirement plans, you know, the plan providers, see what they're going to do about it. If they do something that we think is good about it, we'll, you know, communicate that to you. Otherwise, we will get back with you next week with a recommendation of what to do about this. Because we knew that it wasn't that PIMCO didn't have a gazillion wonderful bond managers. They totally did. They had all the talent in their shop to step in and take care of it. But we also knew that what was likely to happen is many of these public retirement plans were going to pull that money. And when they did, billions would come out of that plan. And you know how hard it is to beat the averages when you have money even just coming in? Well, it's really, really hard to have good performance when a whole bunch of money is going out the door and you have to sell the most liquid things, not the most doggy-ish looking things. So we ended up, after we checked with everyone about what the plans were going to do, realized they could not respond quick enough, that their response time would be very, very slow. The good news is we also knew the public plan's response time would be very slow. But what we did is we went back and we recommended everyone to liquidate it and move it to a different position, which we did do. So we did that. The retirement plans took 30 days, but basically we did that and we moved them out. My point in sharing that was that the fact that we just called them and said, we're aware of this, this is something that could affect you, we don't know what it is, we're going to come up with a solution, we don't have it yet. That's what they wanted. They know that we're looking out for them. We're going to find a solution. It may not always be ideal or perfect for them, but it's the best one we can find for them, and we're going to move forward with that. The same thing with Puerto Rico bonds. When Puerto Rico, and this was before the hurricane, this was a couple of years ago, when they were going in default, we have a program that allowed us to pull up any Puerto Rican bond holding in any one of our funds, our mutual funds. Luckily, nobody had any. But the thing was, but then we let the clients know. Like, you may hear about Puerto Rico defaulting, but you don't own any. And I want you to know we checked that for you. So the point is that there's so much that we do. Think of all the things you do for your clients that they have no idea that you're doing. And that's how we build trust, is that we're always looking after them, but now we're also telling them how we're looking after them.
Seems weird, but you're basically looking for an excuse to contact your clients. And that works really great. One of the key factors in any business partnership is trust. I guess any partnership, personal, business, whatever. But we were lucky that we had some level of trust built in because we're family. It also could have made holidays really weird if it didn't work out.
He's my nephew on my husband's side, so we're family, but you know, oh, his family would really hate me if I screwed up.
Same last name helps for a business though. But if I was looking and I didn't have that family relationship, I would start here. I would start with MDRT friends that I've worked with. I'd start with my NAFA, Advocis members that I've worked with and I know and that I trust. And I've seen the work that they've done, so I know they're going to do a good job. That's who I would be looking at if I'm looking to partner up with someone. I think in all of your years before Matt, nobody really asked Micki what her succession plan was until it became apparent that I was kind of in it for the long haul. And then they were a lot more, they told us a lot quicker then how happy they were to know that I was going to be there for the long haul. And now that's one of the things we use in our prospecting with new clients. So, and it works really well coming from me. When I ask them, a prospect, when is your current advisor going to retire? That's a pretty disturbing question. And it doesn't mean that if their advisor is the same age or older than them, that they need to leave them. But for all of us in the room, no matter what your age, it means that you need to have a plan and you need to communicate that plan to your clients. Because they're thinking of it in the back of their mind, whether or not they're telling you. And nobody wants to spend all this time and hard work accumulating their money and then get to retirement and have their advisor retire at the same time they do.
The other thing is the clients, I thought that my clients' children were my clients as well. I mean, I would work with them, and when they got married, help them and things like that. And it really wasn't until Matt came with me that I realized they never were my clients. They would probably have referred to me as my dad's advisor or my mom's advisor. So it wasn't until then also that my clients voiced to me, they said, you know what, we put all these plans in place. I was hopeful, really hopeful, that when I die, that my kids will do what we planned, that it will go the way we said, and that, you know, we have all these plans in place. But now that my kids are working with Matt, now I know it'll happen. Now I know that my plans are good. And so that, knowing that succession plan and knowing that we have multiple generations of planning established in a buy-in has made a real difference in their willingness to actually do some really sophisticated and long-term planning. So communication, one of the things that, I don't know if you guys have problems with communication in your office. We've always had problems when it was just me. But just Martha and I communicating. So with 4 of us, and we're a small office, I'm sure many of you have more people in your office, but even with 4 people, communication can be the bugaboo, as with clients as well. So here's some of the things that we do that's worked really well. One thing we do is we have a weekly meeting in the office with the 4 of us where we all sit down and we all go through everything that we've taken care of the last week, things that are still open, what the status of them are, what we have going on for this week, who needs to do what in preparation for it. And then at the end of the meeting, what should we be working on longer term? You know, what is not urgent but important? And whose plate should we put that on, and how soon should we make movement on that? In starting to do that, it pointed out to us that that was one of the richest parts of those meetings, and we realized we needed to spend more time than just the last 15 minutes of our meeting talking about that. So we started doing annual retreats, and then now they've kind of gotten to be semi-annual retreats. But what we do is we go away from the office to a nice, quiet location, like we've gone to a beach, you know, anyway. But we go away for a couple days. The meeting's about a day and a half. And we spend that meeting saying, you know, what should we do? First, we review everything we had at the last retreat meeting and to see where we were on it. And it's amazing. Almost everything's gotten done. I mean, this is a really effective way. Things get done. We also have, I will say, our staff creates the agenda for the meeting. We don't create the agenda. And then after that, then we go into what we should be doing. If there were ideas we heard in the last several months that we think are new things we should implement. As a team, we pick out which things we should implement. We decide on what time frame we should implement them, who will be doing the follow-up. And then we just party at night. You know, we cook together, we drink together, we dance together because we're happy. Anyway, and it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. We go and walk on the beach together, and then the next day we kind of wrap it up with, you know, what else do we need to do? Where are the things that can cause us problems? If we were coming into the business new, what would we do to take our business away? So in other words, if I were you, What would you do to steal my business away from me? And if I were trying to steal your business, if I was trying to take over Jim Rogers' business, what would I have to do to get it? And that's a wonderful perspective to say, okay, what would we do? And then we go, well, why don't we do that with our practice so somebody else doesn't think of it first? What else do we have in communication?
We have a picture here of our office, and it's open, and that's on purpose. We don't have any doors, and it's pretty nice furniture, but we can still hear each other, and we know what's going on while the other person's on the phone. I think I can tell this story. It saved us a couple times. I think Jim talked about, or no, Brian Heggert this morning talked about sending off a nasty email. So, I'm over here, or I'm here, Micki's over here, and we can hear each other. And it makes it easy to just kind of fire back and forth, like, hey, what would you do on this? What would you do on this? So we kind of had a bad situation with an insurance company, and Micki said, hey, Matt, she said, is there an apostrophe in heads up your asses? I said, maybe I should read that email before you hit send.
See, that's a really good thing about having a partner. They will keep you from hitting that send button when you know you really shouldn't hit that send button. The thing that was neat about this too is we got to design our own space. And so we designed it to be open, but we also designed it for the clientele that we use to feel comfortable. Our clientele is, a lot of it. Now we've got a lot of younger people now too, but a lot of our clientele is 55 and up. We have all antiques in here. We have, so it feels homey to them. And I can't tell you how many clients have said afterwards, after they get to know us a little better, they said, you know what, I love coming here. It just makes me feel good. This just feels like, like the place that's going to take care of me. So the atmosphere that we project has a lot to do with clients actually having that overall feeling.
Our sheet that we stole from
Jim, yeah, this is Jim's sheet. I should have not. See, if this is on your talk, yeah, it's gone. So, I know he'll have nothing to talk about in the end. Yeah, so I heard Jim speak. He is so good. Anyway, I heard him speak, and he said that they use these sheets. Now, this looks a little different than his, but the key thing, we use this sheet, and it's like bright orange. And the reason it's a bright color is it's in the file, and you know how your files get like really, thick? You always can see the orange sheet. And every time we do a meeting with a client, we do an orange sheet. So we say who's at the meeting, we have an agenda for what we're gonna do at the meeting, and then the first thing we do at the meeting is there's a client agenda. And we said, these are the things we expected to talk about, but you tell us what you want to make sure we talk about, and let's get that on the first part of the agenda here, on the client agenda. So they put that down. We also on these sheets put down what's going to be done and who's going to be doing it and by when. And we share that with the client. So this is a really good thing. When we go back, we can look at a one-page sheet and know exactly what happened in that meeting, who was responsible for doing it, and if we're on track on responding to them. So thank you, Jim. We also use a CRM, and you can see I needed to read that because, as my staff would tell me, I also need to use it. It's a client, for those of you who might not know, it's a client relationship management thing, and it's a pain in the neck. But anyway, it's a way for us to log all of these conversations and all this stuff. But see, the good thing, can we go back to the other picture of our office? See, these actually have glass windows that open. They used to be old ticket windows from New York. But anyway, so Carol now, who sits outside my office, can hear all my phone conversations. She is phenomenal on the CRM. Oh my God, her notes are so detailed. So now we have her just do the notes of my conversations just from hearing them. So it's perfect. See, if there's something you're not good at, you delegate. It worked perfectly. Okay. Mistakes. So let's talk about some of the things we screwed up so you don't have to do it too.
I think, as everybody knows, just getting started in our business is hard enough. It was a real challenge for me starting with a top of the table member because I had to get to a really high technical level really quickly. But what I learned from that is it's okay to get in over your head because it forces you to learn it. And if it's so technical that you don't understand it, you need to learn it because someone else does understand it. And that's who's selling, that's who's making money on those sales. So figure out where you want to be good at and be the best at it.
A mistake that I made when Matt came in with me is I thought, ooh, young, ooh, technology, wow, great, you're in charge of technology. I never took the time to ask him if he liked technology. He knows technology. It turns out he didn't like it at all. But he was our technology guy until we hired someone younger, and then she was our technology person. But the thing I learned from that is we each person in our office needs to do what they like to do best. Because what they like to do is also often what they're good at. And so what we do is we spend a lot of time now talking to each other about what it is that they like and what it is that they don't like. And we try to move whatever somebody doesn't like to do to someone else because they're not going to do it well. They're not going to do it as well as somebody who really likes to do that. So we've made a much bigger allocation of responsibilities and duties based on what people like to do. And we do that with Matt and I too. I mean, it's great that he really likes to do a lot of the retirement plans, the asset allocation, a lot of things like that. I really like to do charts and graphs, and I like to manage money, and I'd rather even pull up my charts at the end of the night than go to a party. So for me, I know it's amazing, isn't it? But it's true. So I get to do more and more of that, and then he does more and more of the other.
And I'll say real quick on the technology thing, our solution to that was we have a guy that is a complete expert in financial services technology. He works with a bunch of firms all around the country, and he lives 6 hours away from us. I've met him once in my life, but he's our IT guy. So you can outsource that stuff so easy. You don't have to become an expert at things you don't like.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's what we've done. If nobody in the office wants to grab that ball, we do. We look at outsourcing more and more. And it's amazing that the kind of services today that are outsourced and that are easy to depend upon and have reliability for.
I'd say another tough thing from my perspective was I joined an existing company. Micki already had staff. They had processes in place. They had their structure for how things went. And throwing another person into that mix, I argue, made it better. But,
much better.
But it was still a learning curve. And I think if you're looking at bringing someone in, or if you're on the other end and you're joining a practice, kind of defining what roles you're going to play up front would really help decrease some of the time and decrease some of the headaches of the learning curve.
And so often he'd ask me, well, why do you do it that way? And I go, I don't know, I've always done it that way. And he'd say, well, do you think maybe we could try it this other way? And I go, sure. So we changed a lot. I had these I had these patterns, these habits, and having fresh eyes come in was really good. One of my preconceived notions was that my time is really valuable, and if both of us have to do the same thing, it's wasting time because only one of us should have to do it. So when he started with me, he sat in on every client meeting because he didn't know what he was doing.
Training.
So yeah, it was training. But even after he knew what he was doing, we found out if we sit in on the meetings together, we are so much more effective because somebody is always listening. You know, we try to get the client to talk a lot more than we talk, but someone is always listening. They can also notice like interactions. Like if you're speaking, if we're having a discussion and you kind of change your body language, I might not notice it. The person sitting there observing notices it, and they can step in and say, you know, maybe this is making you feel uncomfortable, or, you know, what do you think about this, or whatever. And between the two of us, we have found we are incredibly effective with all the meetings together. So whenever we can, we do all the meetings together. Even now, after 12 years.
That process led to probably my biggest life insurance sale. We were planning on proposing $1 million of coverage to this guy. And we were sitting there talking with him, and he got really excited about it. So I just kind of slid that $1 million illustration under the folder, and I said, you know, we're going to have to look at what you would qualify for, and we'll get back to you with some numbers. And it turned out he bought $6 million of coverage. And if we would have just rushed into that $1 million sale, it still would have been nice, but it wouldn't have been 6 times that.
One of the other things that I learned in working with Matt is that, again, sometimes we think we're communicating really clearly. I mean, coming out of my mouth, it sounded like it made sense. But somehow there was this disconnect in this airwaves before they heard it. So, for example, we have this client. He's a great client, a little crazy, but we like him a lot. And he always had us manage his money. And so that was good. We had this great relationship, but he never wanted to buy life insurance. So every time we bring it up, he goes, no, I don't need life insurance. I don't want to talk about life insurance. No. Well, one night he was in the office. It was kind of late, 5:30 or something in the afternoon in our office, and it was a really relaxed meeting. And we were saying, so, what have you been thinking about lately? And he said, well, I got to tell you, I did this in my head last night in bed. I was doing all the math and everything, and I realized if I work another so many years and I continue to save at the same level and you continue to get the same returns you've gotten, I'm going to be able to get $10 million to each of my kids. And that's my goal in life, and that's what I want to do, and I'm really excited, and I think it's going to work, and I've worked out the math, and do you think that math will work? And I looked at him and I said, how would you like to do it today? He says, oh my gosh, how could I do it today? I said, let me tell you about a product we can do that you can sign and put just a little bit of money down, and you can guarantee $10 million to each of your kids. And he bought the life insurance, $92,000 of premium. So,
one of the things we've done for a while now, but you've probably all heard the phrase, don't take it personal, it's just business. Well, that's not what we do. We're planning for and protecting the goals and dreams for our clients and their families. So we do take it personal. But we took that, but we took this another step. And we send out a quarterly newsletter, and all it talks about is what's going on in the personal lives of ourselves and our staff members. This was our most popular one. And the very first thing on here is talking about our assistant's father's 96th birthday. So talk about a great example for longevity planning that went out to all of our clients as well. Now the first thing people ask is, oh, when is your assistant going to run her next marathon? Or how was your daughter's birthday party? And it just really strengthened our relationships with our clients.
And the second page of our newsletter, we take and talk about concepts and ideas having to do with financial planning, but we make it personal and we try to tie it in. So one of them, Matt, you wrote about what you did for your own kids' planning when they were born.
Yeah, and steps newlyweds should take when I got married. Just kind of short, quick checklist type things. But if your client is in that situation, it's very important, and they'll do planning with them. Jed is also on here. I didn't realize Jed's in attendance, and he's on the newsletter as well.
We had talked earlier about cards, whether you send out cards, and we send out cards to our clients that, do you have the card?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. For whatever. I mean, it's just like we're on Google Alert. I don't know if you're familiar with Google Alert, but you sign up and you sign whatever companies or people's names you want, and if something's in the news about them, you get an email that says, here's news. So if we get a Google Alert on someone, we can send them a card. If we just, heard something neat about them, we'd send them a card. If we had a great meeting with them, we can send them a card. The personal handwritten cards, people don't even throw them away. I mean, they just keep them. So it's so unique that somebody now actually handwrites it instead of having a pre-printed, letter or pre-printed card. So we've found those to be quite effective too.
I'll say one of my pet peeves is people relying too much on technology. And I don't know if any of you use these services that will send out an email to your clients for every single holiday in the world. It's really cool, the first one. By the 8th or 9th, it's really insincere. And that's one thing that I do not like, and I stay away from. And it's becoming more and more common on LinkedIn, I've noticed too. You can pre-populate just a quick thing that says, congratulations on your work anniversary. Again, by the 30th one you get, it's a little annoying and very insincere.
We try to simplify things with clients. Our clients, again, when they've told us what they really like about us, one of the things that always comes to the forefront is that we can explain things to them in a way they understand. So often they said, I have had so many people try to tell me this, and I finally get it the way you told me. It made sense. Acronyms. Oh my goodness, we use acronyms all the time. So we have this way that you never use an acronym without first explaining the situation. And then if you want to throw in the acronym so that if they hear it again, they'll get it, okay. So like, if we say, the IRS puts a limit on how much money we can pile into that insurance policy, or there's bad consequences, and they call that a MEG. But we have to just be concerned about how much money we pile in. Again, talk to them about what it does for them or doesn't do for them rather than the acronym. Explain things either with visuals that are really easy. I draw a lot of things on yellow pads, and people will save them. They'll come back to a meeting with an old yellow pad piece where I've scribbled drawings on it, and that's what they remember from it. When I talk to people about bonds, and you might be able to use this now that interest rates are starting to go up, I talk about it like a teeter-totter. And I said, in a teeter-totter, one side goes up, the other one goes down. So when interest rates go up, bond prices fall, and if you own bonds, you can lose money. And just like we've been experiencing before interest rates, as interest rates went down, bonds made a lot of money and it looked really good. But just like on a teeter-totter, the further you get out, the bigger the impact. So your short-term bond, even your intermediate-term bond, not too bad. You got a long-term bond, interest rates go up, you've got a problem. You could lose a lot of money in those. They'll remember the teeter-totter.
And like Micki said, it's a good time to talk about it. Our stock market's up 8th, 9th year in a row. So again, we make sure we don't get into real technical stuff unless asked, but we make sure we're telling people now the stock market's going to go up, it's going to go down. We're 9 years into an up market, so just prepare yourself that we're going to have some fluctuations. And I don't know if it's now or if it's going to be 3 years from now, but it's going to happen. So prepare yourself, remember this conversation. You might call panicked when it happens, and we're going to say, remember what we talked about. Maybe you should be buying more right now instead of panicking and selling out. One
of the things that I was fortunate to get to do was when I was doing the roundtable executive committee, they had me do some media training. And I would encourage anybody to do media training. And it wasn't even so much for the amount of media that I was going to do. It's so good with clients. One of the important things I learned in media training is you don't have to answer the question as it was asked. So if a client, for example, if a client says something like, man, that's really expensive. I think you're just that annuity is trying to be a ripoff. You don't have to start in with, no, it's not expensive. I mean, you don't have to buy into that. What you can say is, you can reframe it. You can say, let me see if I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you're not sure that having a guarantee of income is important to what you're doing for your retirement? Is that where we're going with that? But basically reframe it. Take the hostility out, or take the over the topness out, and reframe it in where you're trying to go with the conversation. And then you can bring it back, because it can be expensive, but it can be really expensive if you don't have it. So it's a good way to remember that we don't have to buy into the way they frame the conversation. We can help them reframe it in a different way. So one of the things that when we were thinking about how to let you know how wonderful we think this is about our working together, and how we really want to encourage you to look for a partner to do a similar thing with. It reminded me about geese, and since we're in Canada, how perfect the Canadian geese. But when geese fly, they fly in a V. And they fly in a V because they draft on each other. And you also know that the leader, the Canadian in geese, it changes. It rotates, so that the one goose in the front doesn't just get totally worn out. One takes the lead for a while and then drops back, and then another one takes the lead and then drops back. But the geese in the back keep honking, and they keep honking encouragement to the ones in the front. Also, if a goose gets sick or hurt and has to drop out, another goose always drops out with them. And they go down and they stay with them until the goose either is better or they die. Then the geese, if it's the two of them or the one remaining, goes up and joins another V formation. Because they have found, as we have found, is that working together is not only a whole lot more fun, it also gets us a lot further and a lot faster. So we thank you so much for having us here today, and we just love being with you. Thanks.